Let's start with something very important that many people misunderstand. The male body is not a machine that has a limited supply of sperm that can simply run out. In reality, the body is constantly producing sperm every single day. Curious. This process never really stops during a man's healthy adult life. Deep inside the testicles, tiny structures are always working quietly, creating new sperm cells again and again. It's a continuous cycle that the body manages on its own without a man even thinking about it. Because of this natural process, ejaculation is simply the release of something the body is already making regularly. When a man ejaculates, he is not emptying some permanent storage. Chuckles. The body simply continues its normal work and begins replacing what was released. In fact, millions of new sperm cells are produced every day. This is why the body is able to maintain this cycle without any damage or long-term loss. Many men grow up hearing warnings that frequent ejaculation will somehow weaken them or cause their body to run out of sperm. This belief has been repeated for generations, but when we look at how the body actually works, that idea doesn't match the science. The reproductive system was designed to produce sperm continuously. Just like the body makes new blood cells, skin cells, and other tissues, it also makes new sperm cells. Now, when ejaculation happens more often, the body may release smaller amounts each time. That is simply because there is less time for fluid and sperm to build up between ejaculations. But that does not mean the body stops producing sperm. The production line continues working in the background, quietly doing its job day after day. Another thing many people don't realize is that the sperm you release today actually began developing weeks earlier. Sperm takes time to fully mature before it is ready to be released. So even when ejaculation happens regularly, there are always new cells moving through the production cycle. The body is constantly preparing the next group. Think of it like a flowing river rather than a small tank of water. A tank can empty and stay empty, but a river keeps moving because fresh water is always coming from upstream. The male reproductive system works in a similar way. It is designed as a continuous flow, not a limited container. For most healthy men, the body adjusts very easily to different patterns. Some men may go several days without ejaculation, while others may experience it more frequently. In both situations, the body simply continues its natural rhythm of production and renewal. Understanding this basic truth removes a lot of unnecessary fear and confusion. The body is built with a system that renews itself, replaces what is released, and keeps the reproductive process moving forward. And once you understand that the body is constantly producing sperm, you begin to see that ejaculation is not the loss many people imagine. It is simply part of the body's natural cycle. Now let's talk about something that many people notice, but often don't fully understand, and that is the feeling of relaxation that comes after ejaculation. This is not just in someone's imagination. There is a real biological reason behind it, and it has to do with the way the brain and body communicate with each other. When ejaculation happens, the brain releases several natural chemicals. These chemicals are part of the body's own system for managing stress, emotions, and overall balance. One of the effects of these chemicals is a sense of calm. Muscles relax, the mind slows down a little, and many people feel a noticeable drop in tension. Think about how the body reacts during stressful moments. The heart beats faster, the mind keeps racing, and the body stays in a state of alert. This is the body's stress response. But after ejaculation, the body tends to move in the opposite direction. The nervous system shifts into a more relaxed mode. Breathing becomes slower, the body loosens up, and the mind often feels quieter. This is one reason many men report that they sleep better afterward. The body naturally enters a more restful state. Some of the same calming chemicals that are released help prepare the brain for sleep. That is why it is very common for someone to feel sleepy or deeply relaxed shortly after ejaculation. The body is simply responding to those signals. Another interesting part of this process is that it can help reduce mental pressure. Daily life brings a lot of stress, work responsibilities, family concerns, financial worries, and constant mental activity. The brain does not always get a chance to slow down. Sexual release can sometimes act as a reset button for that tension. Of course, this does not mean ejaculation is a cure for stress or emotional problems. Life is more complicated than that, but the body does respond to it in a way that promotes relaxation. It can temporarily lower stress levels and create a moment where both the body and the mind feel lighter. It is also important to understand that this reaction is part of normal human biology. The body developed these responses over time. The release of these calming chemicals helps create balance after sexual activity. It is one of the ways the body regulates itself. For some men, this effect may feel stronger than for others. Everyone's body and emotional system is a little different. Some people may notice a big change in their mood, while others simply feel a gentle sense of calm. Both experiences are completely normal. The key thing to understand is that ejaculation does not only involve the reproductive organs, it involves the brain, the nervous system, and the body's chemical signals working together. What happens in those few moments sends messages throughout the entire body, and when those messages are released, the result for many men is simple: a brief but very real wave of calm that reminds us how closely the mind and body are connected. Now let's look at another part of the picture that often raises questions, especially for men who are thinking about fertility. When ejaculation happens every day, one thing that can change is the number of sperm released each time. This does not mean something is wrong with the body. It simply reflects how the reproductive system manages its timing. Remember, the body is always producing sperm, but it also needs time to allow those sperm cells to collect and mix with the fluids that form semen. When there is a longer gap between ejaculations, more of that fluid and more sperm can build up. As a result, the amount released in one ejaculation may be larger. When ejaculation happens daily, there is simply less time for that buildup to happen. The body still produces sperm, but each release may contain a slightly smaller number compared to what might happen after several days of waiting. This is a normal adjustment of the body's rhythm, not a sign of damage or weakness. Many men misunderstand this change and assume it means their sperm production is dropping or that something is being lost permanently. That is not the case. The production process continues in the background, just as it always does. The only difference is how much has had time to gather before the next ejaculation. This becomes important mainly for couples who are actively trying to have a baby. In that situation, timing can play a role. Some specialists suggest leaving a short gap between ejaculations so that sperm numbers can build up a little more before intercourse during the most fertile days of the partner's cycle. This small adjustment may increase the chances of conception. But outside of fertility planning, daily ejaculation is usually not a concern for healthy men. The body adapts easily to different patterns. Some men may go through periods of frequent ejaculation, while at other times it may happen less often. The reproductive system continues working normally in both situations. Another interesting point is that sperm quality and sperm count are not always the same thing. Even when the number of sperm in a single ejaculation is slightly lower, many of those sperm cells can still be healthy and capable of doing their job. What matters most is the overall health of the reproductive system, which depends on many factors like diet, sleep, physical activity, and general well-being. So when we talk about daily ejaculation affecting sperm count, we are really talking about timing and accumulation, not about the body losing its ability to produce sperm. The factory is still running, the process is still active. The only difference is how long the system has had to store what it has produced before it is released. And once you understand that, the idea becomes much clearer. Frequent ejaculation may change the quantity in each moment, but it does not stop the body from continuing its natural cycle of production. Now let's move to another part of the male body that does not get talked about enough, and that is the prostate. The prostate is a small gland, about the size of a walnut, sitting just below the bladder. Even though it is small, it plays a very important role in the reproductive system. One of its main jobs is to produce a special fluid that mixes with sperm to create semen. This fluid helps protect the sperm and allows them to move more easily. Every time ejaculation happens, the prostate releases some of this fluid. You can think of it almost like a small pump that pushes fluid into the semen during the moment of release. Because of this role, ejaculation is one of the natural ways the prostate empties itself. Over time, the prostate is always producing fluid. If ejaculation happens regularly, that fluid is moved out of the gland and replaced with fresh fluid. Some researchers believe this regular emptying may help the prostate stay in better condition. It is similar to how movement and circulation help other parts of the body function properly. When fluid sits inside a gland for long periods without being released, it can become thicker and stagnant. The body normally prevents this by regularly moving things along. Ejaculation is simply part of that process for the prostate. It helps keep the flow moving. This is why some medical studies have looked at the connection between ejaculation frequency and long-term prostate health. A number of these studies have suggested that men who ejaculate more regularly may have a slightly lower risk of certain prostate problems later in life. The idea is that frequent release may help clear out substances that could otherwise build up inside the gland. Now, it is important to keep this in perspective. Ejaculation alone is not a magic shield that protects the prostate from every issue. Prostate health is influenced by many things: age, genetics, diet, physical activity, and overall lifestyle. All of these factors work together. But regular ejaculation may be one small piece of the larger puzzle. Another thing worth understanding is that the prostate is very active throughout a man's life. As men get older, this gland often changes in size and behavior. That is a normal part of aging. Keeping the body healthy overall, through movement, balanced eating, and good sleep, plays a much bigger role in long-term health than any single habit. Still, when we look at how the body is designed, it becomes clear that ejaculation is not just about sexual pleasure. It also triggers physical processes inside the reproductive system. The prostate releases its fluid, the ducts clear themselves, and the body refreshes part of that system. So instead of seeing ejaculation as something that drains the body, it can also be understood as one of the natural ways the reproductive organs maintain their normal function. And when the prostate is allowed to do its job regularly, the system tends to stay in motion rather than sitting still. Now let's address another belief that many men have heard for years: the idea that frequent ejaculation drains a man's energy or lowers his masculine hormones. This idea has been repeated in different cultures for a long time, and it often creates worry. Some men start to think that if they ejaculate too often, their body will become weaker or their testosterone will drop. But when we look at how the body actually works, the situation is very different from what many people imagine. The male body has a very strong system for keeping its hormones balanced. Testosterone, which is the main male hormone, is produced mostly in the testicles and regulated by signals from the brain. This process runs on its own rhythm. It does not suddenly collapse just because ejaculation happens more often. When ejaculation occurs, the body does not lose testosterone in a way that causes long-term harm. Hormone levels naturally move up and down throughout the day anyway. They change with sleep, exercise, stress, and even time of day. For example, testosterone is usually highest in the morning and slowly decreases as the day goes on. This is a normal daily cycle. So when people say ejaculation drains masculinity, they are mixing up myth with biology. In healthy men, the body restores balance very quickly. The reproductive system continues producing sperm, the hormone system keeps regulating testosterone, and the body carries on with its normal functions. Energy levels work in a similar way. Some men may feel temporarily relaxed or a bit sleepy after ejaculation, and that is completely normal. As we talked about earlier, certain calming chemicals are released in the brain during that moment. Those chemicals can make the body feel peaceful or even ready for rest. But that feeling is temporary. It is not the same thing as long-term fatigue or weakness. Real energy in the body comes from many other factors: sleep quality, nutrition, physical activity, hydration, and overall health. If a man sleeps well, eats balanced meals, moves his body regularly, and manages stress, his energy levels will mostly reflect those habits. Ejaculation alone does not control that. Another important thing to remember is that the human body is very adaptable. It constantly adjusts to different patterns. Some men may go through times when ejaculation happens frequently, while other periods of life may be less active. The body simply adapts to the rhythm without shutting down its systems. This is why most healthy men who ejaculate regularly still maintain normal strength, clear thinking, and stable hormone levels. Their bodies continue producing what they need, repairing tissues, and supporting daily activity just as before. Understanding this helps remove unnecessary fear. Instead of worrying that the body is losing something valuable each time, it becomes easier to see ejaculation as part of the natural function of the reproductive system. And when the body is healthy and balanced, its hormones and energy systems are far stronger and more stable than many people realize. Now, after understanding all of this, there is one final point that brings everything together, and that is balance. When people ask whether ejaculating every day is good or bad, they are usually hoping for a simple yes or no answer. But the human body rarely works in such simple ways. Health is almost always about balance, and the same idea applies here. Every man's body is a little different. Some men naturally feel comfortable with more frequent sexual release, while others may feel better with more time in between. Both patterns can be completely normal. The body has an amazing ability to adjust to different rhythms as long as those rhythms are not extreme or harmful to daily life. What really matters is how a habit fits into the overall picture of health. If ejaculation happens regularly, but a man is still sleeping well, staying active, focusing on his responsibilities, and maintaining healthy relationships, then the body is most likely handling that pattern just fine. The reproductive system is designed to function as part of a larger system that includes the brain, hormones, and emotional well being. On the other hand, if any behavior begins to interfere with daily life, that is when it deserves attention. For example, if someone finds that it is affecting sleep, work, motivation, or personal relationships, then it may be a sign that the habit is out of balance. Not because ejaculation itself is harmful, but because anything done excessively can start to take over time and energy that should be going to other parts of life. Another important part of balance is understanding that sexual health is only one piece of overall health. The body thrives when many areas are working together: good nutrition, regular movement, enough rest, and a calm mind. These factors have a much larger impact on a man's long term well being than the exact number of times he ejaculates in a week. Age can also change the rhythm. Younger men often have stronger sexual drive and may experience ejaculation more frequently. As men grow older, their patterns may shift naturally. This is simply the body adapting over time. There is no single number that applies to everyone, and there does not need to be. It is also helpful to listen to the body. The body usually gives signals when something feels right and when something feels off. Feeling healthy, energetic, and mentally clear are good signs that the body's systems are in balance. Feeling constantly drained, distracted, or out of control may suggest that adjustments are needed. So instead of focusing on strict rules or counting numbers, it is far more useful to look at the bigger picture. A healthy body is not built around one habit alone. It is built around balance, awareness, and respect for how the body naturally works. And when that balance is present, the body usually knows exactly how to take care of itself.